So if you really want to use dry fasting as a way to lose weight, especially for experienced fasters, you want to be able to use this more intermittently. What's up, fasters? Welcome to another video. I am Dr. LeGrand, your host, and we're going to talk about dry fasting and how to do dry fasting properly. So here we go. So we're going to talk about 4 different ways that to properly prep for a dry fast, or how to do dry fasting. Now, to just reiterate, this is for people who are experienced fasters, who've already done some juice fasting and done water fasting, extensive fasting. Dry fasting is kind of like a next level for really healthy individuals that can kind of take it to that next level. So if you are considering doing it, check with your doctor first, as always, before you really want to go into dry fasting. Dry fasting is kind of one of those things you have to really be cautious about. Okay, so let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to prepping for dry fasting is consuming more healthier fats. Why this is important when you're actually doing dry fasting is because, remember when I talked about in my previous video, and I'll go ahead and leave that in a link above here if you haven't watched that video, about the science behind dry fasting, is that our body, when it's dry fasting, it's going to use our fats for breaking down to use water, to create water in our body. So by consuming more fats in our diet beforehand is going to be really beneficial, by consuming more fats so that our body is consistently using fats to create that water, but also, again, using our body as where it's switching over to fat as fuel versus the carbs. So that's going to be really beneficial. So a lot of people who are doing the keto diet tend to do really well with doing the dry fast if they decide to do that as far as their intermittent fasting. The other thing about talking about when it comes to why consuming more fats, healthier fats in a diet, there's also Ramadan. When we're looking at Ramadan, there's lots of studies on this where fats have a higher oxidation breakdown versus carbs during fasting, specifically dry fasting. So if you really want to be able to increase your metabolism levels of what kind of macronutrients it's going to break down, fats are the best kind of source that you use to break down the fastest, versus carbs, it actually is lower during dry fasting. So the second thing is what to not do during the dry fast. Well, I would say exercise, specifically really intense exercise, is not going to be the best option. There has been studies on this. In fact, a particular study where they took runners who do Ramadan and actually did do dry fasting, and they found that their peak performance, especially their oxidation, as far as what their muscles consume oxygen, was decreased, as well as their performance was decreased. So I would say doing an intense exercise during, specifically if you're going to do it for Ramadan or dry fasting in general, not a good option. Try to just keep it light as far as just relaxing. And when you're dry fasting, your body is really intensifying, taking it to another extreme level, changing a lot of body chemistry when you're doing a dry fast, and metabolism is changing a lot. So let the body relax. Don't have it doing too much. Have it relaxed, because it's really detoxifying a lot in the body. So really just keep it relaxed as you're doing a dry fast. The other study I want to talk about, what you should not be doing during a dry fast, or at least breaking a dry fast. There's tons of studies on Ramadan. In fact, that's where most of the studies are on when it comes to dry fasting. There's not too many other dry fasting research out there, at least not yet. But what happens during Ramadan, most people will consume actually more carbs than usual, and sometimes even more calories than usual. And what they found with this is that people gain back their weight. So if you really want to keep the weight off and continually getting the weight off, again, going back to try and consume more healthier fats in your diet versus consuming more of the carbs particularly. Now the third thing is, how do you break a dry fast? Well, depending how long you do it, but really if we're, for example, doing a 24-hour dry fast, I would say to continue doing a little bit more fasting with water. So kind of switching over gears to doing a water fast is really good to rehydrate the body, especially if you're planning on doing intermittent dry fasting. It's good to always rehydrate as much as possible, so that as long as you're replenishing the body with amounts of water, you can continually, easily doing a dry fast intermittently. Then of course, when you are doing that for a while, then of course incorporating the first types of foods, what I would say is healthy fats. So just like how you're doing it from the beginning, Also, when you're breaking your fast after you've consumed some good water for a while, then implementing some healthy fats after about an hour or two. So if you really want to kind of extend a little bit more of the fasting, then once you are ready to eat some foods, go ahead and eat some of those healthy fats and some healthy vegetables, so that way you kind of prolong that time period of your body breaking down the fat cells. And then the fourth thing is how to do in between dry fasting. So if you really want to continue the benefits, so versus somebody who does just Ramadan once a year for a month, they lose all this weight, and the research has shown, in fact there has been studies of this, is that they lose about roughly, can lose around, about 5 to about 12 plus pounds depending on the person during Ramadan, but they have shown that they've gained it all back. Why? Because they really are consuming more of the high carbs during the night hours and not eating anything during the daylight hours, but at nighttime they might be consuming way too much of the carbs and other types of foods that might be contributing to not helping losing the weight. But then after Ramadan is done, then they just go back to old eating habits. So if you really want to use dry fasting as a way to lose weight, especially for experienced fasters, you want to be able to use this more intermittently. And by doing that, trying to use it intermittently by doing dry fasting and water fasting kind of together. So if, let's say, for example, you decide to do a 24-hour dry fast, okay? Then maybe if you want to extend that, switch over to doing a water fast for another 24 hours. So you could have full 48 hours where you did both dry fasting and water fasting. And then, putting in a meal in there. But then remember, the meals that you want to try to consume more is more healthier fat, low carb type of diet. So if you really want to try to lose the weight, trying to consistently, intermittently, always adding dry and water fasting. But then of course, dry fasting is not the only way you have to do this. In fact, I would say, like I said before the beginning of this video, dry fasting is really for really experienced fasters. You can always get a lot of these benefits from doing water fasting. Now I've talked about this in my other video that yes, dry fasting, typically 1 day of dry fasting can result to what you can get in 3 days of water fasting. That has been said out there. I've looked at the research on this, and if any of you guys know, because there's a lot of YouTubers that have thrown this phrase around, and I've been trying to look for the actual research on this. Now, there is in theory, yes, and not in theory, but there is the science behind it that I've talked about in my previous video, that yes, when you're doing a dry fast, your body is breaking down your fat cells even faster because the body needs to start creating water, and so it can create it from fat cells. But this whole 3 times, I haven't seen any research on it. So I can't honestly just say, yes, there's science that totally backs it up, that 3 times the amount. I mean, I know it does, as far as I know you break down fat cells faster versus water fasting. But to say 3 times, that I am not 100% sure. And I really would like to know where these research that some other YouTubers are talking about it, like Thomas DeLore, I know talks about it. I looked at a lot of his research articles that he had. They were just blog articles, not backed up types of research. And it might not be out there. There might just be kind of a theory. So I really would like to know, and please leave this in the comment section below. Let's get together and try to find this research. Maybe it's not out there. It just might not be out there, but I am really curious to find out. So please leave that in the comment section below. All right, that is it for today, you guys. If you guys liked this video, give us a big thumbs up. Go ahead and share with your family and friends. As always, if you are new here and want to know more tips and tricks on fasting, we talk about all fasting here, from water fasting, dry fasting, intermittent fasting, and other detoxification videos. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button over here and hit the notification bell. And if you are also new here and haven't checked out any of our other videos, I'll go ahead and leave links over here that you can check out. So until next time, this is Dr. LeGrand out. Thanks. Bye.